Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Thanks for coming to our panel.
Yeah, thank you.
Woo! I do want to say it is so good to be back in Portland at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo. It's one of my favorite expos ever. It's been too long, so thank you for having us.
So yeah, should get this show on the road. My name is Sean Cleaver. I'm from the UK and I'm the marketing manager for Blaze Entertainment, and we make the Evercade. It's my first time here in Portland, and thank you very much for having me. It's been absolutely lovely being here. Yep. Everybody's been so kind and great. And it's been really good to see the difference between UK and the US when it comes to retro and what everybody's passionate about. I should introduce my panel, although I suspect they need no introduction. We have MetalJesusRocks. We have the immortal John Hancock. And we have John Riggs. So there's a reason why I've got this super group of retro YouTubers, and it's mainly because not only have they been really, really great with supporting Evercade and the coverage that they have done and the feedback they've given us, but also they're very keen, passionate, physical gaming collectors as well. You know,
And we're also a bunch of shills, too. I don't know if you've heard this. But
Wait, you got paid?
Really?
You got paid?
Wait, what?
What? Oh, there's money?
No,
Oh, okay.
Well, there goes my lunch money for later. So I kind of want to get an idea from each of you, because of, if you don't know about the Evercade. Actually, I should do this first. Who knows about Evercade?
Evercade? Yep.
Yeah!
Lots. Nice. Oh, I literally saw one up in the air. There's like Run DMC holding the Adidas. That's perfect.
For those of you who don't know, Evercade is a retro gaming console. It does emulation, and the main thing about it is it's recreating the classic physical gaming experience. So we bring cartridges in small little boxes with full color manuals that we write ourselves. We officially license these games. We put them all in a package that's curated, so not too many games, not too little games, and we try and give everybody a really good experience of really classic stuff, new things you might not have discovered, not just in the retro side, but also in indie and arcade and now home computer as well. But physical and what the physical gaming experience means is quite subjective, I think. So I kind of wanted to ask you guys what your kind of feelings is of your classic physical gaming experience.
I mean, I do remember sitting on the floor, when I was really young and having an Atari 2600 we were probably way too close to the television, and me and my cousin just popping in cartridge after cartridge, having the best time. We had like an AC/DC album sitting on a turntable, and it was a physical thing, it was a social thing, and it was very important, you know what I mean? And it's there is nothing quite like having a real controller, the real cartridge, and that experience. And so I still love it. And, I never get tired of it. It's magical.
Well, I'll just speak Genesis, because that's my jam. So to me, I was first on the block with Altered Beast package. I wanted to save up for Neo Geo, couldn't afford that, I got a Sega Genesis, and I fell in love. And to me, getting that physical cartridge, putting it into the console and experiencing things that were different than arcade. To me, and what's great about the Evercade is I have fond memories of playing classic computer stuff. I have fond memories of playing arcade. But that physical experience of putting a physical cartridge in a console and turning it on and turning the TV on, proper channel, and it's just amazing. And so Sega, Nintendo, Atari, that was my childhood. And what's great is, the Evercade includes that and a ton more. It's so diverse, and it fits my eclectic desire to enjoy classic games.
Genesis. Well, we all know NES is any best, right? And on that note, I remember one of the first games I bought for the NES was Donkey Kong Classics, because it was 2 games in one. Oh my God, you could have not just Donkey Kong, not just Donkey Kong Jr., but both on the same cartridge, and it was the best thing in the world for me, and that was one of the things that kind of sparked my interest with the Evercade initially, not just the physical cartridges, but it's the fact that it's a compilation of cartridges, so not just maybe you buy it because there's a couple games you really like, and then maybe there's a couple games you've never even heard of, so it gives you experience like, well, it's like when you like a song on the radio, so you have to buy the whole album. You could buy the song too, but usually, this is coming from the radio guy, if there's one song you like on the radio, there's probably like 4 songs you like even more than that song on the CD that may never even make it to radio. So it's nice to let you explore some of these other games that, the ones that you do know, and then maybe you find some more that you never knew, were out there in the first place, or never had an option to play them in the first place. Like some of these classic arcade games, it's a great, opens the door of that window of opportunity.
So going back in time, probably to 2019 was when you guys would have first heard about the Evercade, first seen it. And then we get to 2020 when we're about to release it and the entire world decides it's going to stay inside for 6 months, which probably helped for us, let's be honest. And I'm intrigued to sort of know, I mean, obviously you've all done your videos, you've all done your reviews, but I'm intrigued to sort of know what your first impressions of Evercade was as an idea and a concept, really, once you got hold of it. I know, to quote you, is it madness?
Yeah, I thought you guys are crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it was definitely at the time, it was kind of like, wow, you guys are going to license the games? Because there's so many clone systems out there that try to sell 1,000 games or 10,000 games for $40 or whatever. And I was very impressed. I was like, you guys are going to license it? Oh, and by the way, all the cartridges are $20. I mean, I was like, really? This is going to, happen? I thought it was, and I guess I did think it was kind of ambitious. And I was wondering how we're going to pull it off, to be honest. And you guys did, actually. And not only that, but you guys have continued to put out really interesting cartridge collections. Not just the Data East collection that everybody kind of puts out normally, but you guys really dig deep in there and like Commodore 64 stuff.
Links?
Yeah, the Atari Lynx. I mean, so that's been really interesting to kind of see and see you guys succeed.
Yeah, for me, I was like, I just hope they can make it. Like, I just hope this is be more than just like a stocking stuffer success. Like, I talked with my friend, wouldn't it be cool to have like this classic gaming console, but it's like new on the market that could offer games and be not super mainstream and retro, but still affordable. And we talked about it. We didn't like, not to the detail of the Evercade, but just, it would be cool if something on the market was that. And then the Evercade came, and it's like, all the games are $20. Color manual, physical releases, all the games we grew up with. Oh, by the way, there's all this obscure stuff you didn't even know existed.
Right.
And then it's like, it covers, arcade, now classic computer. Like, it's an eclectic as my taste, and it's just like, wow, this is really great. And through 3.5 years later, it's going strong, and there's new things coming out. So it's just awesome.
I like the fact that you can collect it now and along the way. Like getting into retro gaming now and you're like, you know what, I'm going to collect an entire Game Boy Advance set, which is like, 2,000 games or something like that. It's hard to go back and then find the history and find all that, but I like it because it's a new console to collect for, and because it's so fresh, you can just kind of collect, it was like collecting amiibos when they first came out. Oh, cool, you can just kind of, if you just like stay up to date, then you're already going to be good to go, and you don't have to worry about trying to find that one exclusive game from way back when. It makes it fun and easy to collect for, which I think is great.
So has anybody here got a full Evercade set?
I'm missing one.
One?
I'm missing one.
Which one?
Which one?
The Jalco arcade.
Oh,
That's the only
Jellicoe.
one.
Do you want to buy it? It's here. So it's being sold
It's your
here.
day.
Today is your lucky day, sir. There's like two or three of you that got a full set, and obviously you guys have got a full set mostly as well. So I'm kind of intrigued because you've all mentioned the value prospect of this as well. It's $20 a cart. We try to bring everything on there.
Huge deal.
Have you discovered something through Evercade that you probably wouldn't have found otherwise?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all the obscure arcade games from other countries.
Yeah, that's
Like,
true.
because, you get
Right.
like a ROM set, and it's like, you don't have time to play all the obscure stuff. You typically gravitate to the stuff that you remember.
Right.
Yeah.
And then Evercade, like you talked about the word curation, and that's exactly it. here is a sampling from a company or companies, brilliantly laid out, and it explains the history in the manual. It's great, the year, and then you can play this, and it's like, wow, I've never played anything like this. This is weird. Or like, and it's just like, there are a couple recent of the game releases, and Pico Arcade is a good example.
Yeah.
Holy cow, there's games I never would touch, and because they're on the Evercade in a curated, palatable layout and set, I'm going to play them more. So,
What's that, Tangle in the Wood? Or,
Tanglewood.
Tanglewood.
Yeah, that's a really
Tanglewood.
fun game I discovered on the
Right.
Evercade. Also, too, you guys have a couple Commodore 64 collections, and all the games you chose, or most of them, were not the games I would normally choose.
Okay.
Because it's a computer system, and there's like 25,000 games that came on the Commodore 64, and it was really interesting to see the ones that you guys chose to put on there, because I would have chose the ones that we had while I was living here, right?
Yeah.
So it's completely different.
And that is really, really different. I mean, we've already said a little bit briefly about the difference between America and the UK. Like the games that we have, they do have a bit of a UK bias. I know there's probably several people in the room that will go, stop putting soccer games on there. Don't worry, we've run out of them now, it's fine. But yeah, no, that's a really interesting point of, discovering more about something that you thought you already knew as well.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
I haven't come to you yet, John. Sorry. Is there anything you discovered?
Oh, I'm a huge indie gamer. I'm a huge, I love the indies and the homebrews and the ones made by those. And there's a couple of those indie hero collections. So finding even games that are on there that I didn't even know the NES cart existed, because there were so many. And as somebody who makes these NES homebrew games, there's sometimes games that just kind of fly under the radar for me, but they pop up on there, and it's like, oh, cool. And then it's even made by someone that's like I would consider a friend. It's like, oh, some friend I am. Didn't even know they made this, Because so no, it's just the same thing too. It's just the discovery factor. I loved it.
So one of the things I've said before about Evercade, when we're talking about the nostalgia element of it, because one of the things about that classic physical gaming experience is not just the nostalgia for the game, it's the nostalgia for putting yourself into that time. And like you said, it's a social thing. You're with a friend, you're elbowing them to try and get an advantage playing something. One of the things I've sort of discovered through working on Evercade and being a guy that used to rent a lot of games is that we do get fed a line about what our nostalgia is from the big companies, and they will tell you it's this particular big game, or it's this game that was a packing game, and it's those kind of things. But really, I look back on it and go, well, yeah, I had that and I played that. But I like to go to Blockbuster, because we had Blockbuster as well for quite a while, and get this random game that I would have for a weekend, and I'd either gel with it, bounce off it, or do anything else like that. Do you feel like this system sort of brings a similar thing to you guys of discovering nostalgia because of the situation that it's in, rather than specifically about a particular game? I'm sure there's obviously games that you do have that with.
Right.
I mean, I think when you hit is that sometimes whenever or it was John, was like when you download an entire MAME ROM set and it's 10,000 games and you're like, I just want to play Frogger. I just want to, that's too many. And so I do really, there is a place for curation, and I do really appreciate that. And so that is definitely something that I like about your cartridges, that they're bite-sized and manageable. There's not 10,000 games on there.
Yeah.
So I guess I don't know if that answers your question, but that's certainly.
No, a little bit. I mean, because there is that thing, when you went to like a rental store or something, you go, what am I getting this weekend?
Yeah.
And it wasn't loads, it was, I'm getting the one game.
Yeah.
Like,
Or it's a game that's not rented. So like the parallel, like there's a parallel for me of like, I don't know if I wanted to play that game, but I didn't know that game existed, and after playing it, I want to play it more. That's what I get from playing Evercade games on the library. It's like, wow, I like that type of game. I wouldn't have thought that worked that way, or I want to know more about this. Wow, that's unique. I wouldn't have even thought about curating a game like that. And then because it's from the same company, oh, I like that game, so I'm going to go check out the other games because they may be just as fun as that.
Right. And that's what's fun about the Evercade carts too. I'm sorry if this sounds like a commercial. I promise you it's not supposed to be.
I mean, I will say
not an
I'm
ad.
not sorry about that.
But I've always liked, and what I always appreciated about Evercade was it wasn't, some of the collections are maybe console-based, but then sometimes the collections are publisher-based, or sometimes the collections, so it's not just like, oh, here's the title collection, here's the Data East collection, the Sunsoft collection, which just came out, or is coming out, one of the two. But then sometimes it's here's the Lynx games. Here are, ones for the Commodore 64. So it's fun to, you can kind of mix and match a little bit too. Like if you like, and you like the same with the before. If either, you like Sunsoft games, but maybe there's a game that came out, in another country that we didn't even know exists. Well, like the Namco collection has a couple of Famicom games on there, available in the United States for the first time, which is wonderful. So it gives you a chance to check out some of these games. Maybe you played all the Nintendo games, but you didn't play all the Famicom games. So it gives you a chance to kind of open up those doors too, to experience those games too.
So when we started the Evercade back in 2020, one of the main things about it was we wanted something that people would pick up again. Because like you're saying, at the time there's so many devices that you can get that they may have a license or two and they just go on the shelf. And you never see them again, and you play them for a little bit and then they disappear. One of the reasons that we brought cartridges in, as well as giving the experience, was because we wanted something where you could buy something again and go back to that console, go back to that thing and give you something new. That's when we did 10 with another 4 carts on the line from there. We're now at 50. 51 and over 500 games, and we've probably got a library that we never thought, sometime pretty soon we're going to be hitting some big sales numbers of how much we've had cartridges over our time. But I'm intrigued to know from you guys as well, because we've talked about what you like. Is there anything you don't like? Is there any game that you hate? Because I know there's going to be somebody out here that goes, why did you put Sword of Sodan on a car?
Hardware or software?
Yeah.
Hardware or software?
Either.
He's got a list.
I mean, I will say, any feedback we've had from the hardware is actually a really good point as well, because one of the great things about the reviews that you guys did, because it was going to be something that we want you to pick up off the shelf, the way that we considered it at the first point wasn't going to update it. It was just going to be not one and done, but it could do everything. And then we very quickly realized we needed to find a way to update it because people were beginning to care. And I mean, your review especially was very important in us fixing a lot of the sound issues through HDMI and the things that we did.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
And that kind of constant
or like button mapping.
Yeah, exactly. We should be able to go for that.
I'm laughing because I do remember, I don't know if I emailed you, but getting back to the Commodore 64 collection, I emailed you and I was like, you picked the wrong games. I was like, you gotta have me do it. I don't know if that was you.
It was either me or Andrew.
Yeah, and I wrote out a list of all the Commodore 64 games, like, no, get these on there, and you can market it Metal Jesus Collection. I was like, we're gonna fix this. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I want a cartridge with all my games on there. And the reason why is because I want to be able to preserve these, some of these games that, like a lot of them I'll have them on floppy disk, and those floppy disks, easily damaged.
Yeah.
But if you guys were to publish them, that'd be really cool to do and to kind of, again, help preserve them for another generation, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, preservation has been one of those things that has become really important with Evercade. And I mean, one of the things here, you've already mentioned the Sunsoft collection, which has Mr. Gimmick on it.
Right.
I haven't found the NES cart for Mr. Gimmick in here anywhere. And I know if I did, it would probably be a 4-figure sum for that cart.
Oh, sure.
You come to my house.
Yeah. I'll make you a bootleg one if you want.
But it's that thing as well of not just preserving just it as a release or anything else like that. It's bringing those games in a way that you can physically own them as well.
Yeah, and I appreciate that they're licensed as well, so that the publisher gets money or the developer,
Does that, I mean, obviously for indie and homebrew, that obviously does mean a lot in this day and age, but when you've got these big companies, does that mean a lot to you that it is licensed now? When
Yes.
the choices are...
I think so.
Yeah,
Yes, that matters. Yeah, because it separates it from I'm just going to say a Chinese knockoff.
Yeah, or I mean, honestly, I think there's value in some of these things. I know some people are like, oh, the games are 30 years old. Well, if they're still fun, we still pay for music that's 30 years old easily.
Yeah.
I will happily buy a vinyl record release that's, but, you know, actually I just recently did that, and, you know, because, you know, I want them to continue to make stuff and be rewarded for doing so.
Yeah.
Rewarded for good work and quality work. So I have no problem. And again, somehow you're able to do that for $20.
Yeah, $20.
You know, so the hit on the wallet for the person buying isn't really high.
Yeah, and then doing it the legal route, like, to me, that totally motivates me, like, to promote it, just because it's harder to do that. And the fact that how many times, like, you wish a company would offer something, again, like a legal route. And that's much more difficult, as you know directly. And so that means a lot to me, that it's all licensed. And the fact that you go out of your way to make fair and amicable agreements with each company, and that's huge. And really nobody isn't doing what you're doing. And so it's filling this void of like retro, but it's modern, and it's a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and it's not just console, it's arcade and computer. And the fact that it's branched out, to me, it just really makes it a much more diverse product. I mean, you know, and it's not all perfect, but like overall, the great totally outweighs like the little issues, like turbo buttons. I wish there was turbo buttons. I wish there was a turbo feature on certain games, because I remember as a kid, I used turbo to beat some of the games, and not having that, I miss that.
I mean, your wish may be granted in future.
Okay.
There we go.
I'm just being honest.
Yeah, no, I've always been appreciated how receptive you are to, because there are some major companies who don't even hear it from the fans. There's like, we know what we're doing, and have nothing to do with anyone else. Thanks for the money, we know what we're doing, you know, buy our next stuff. But you've always, I mean, like on social media, I've seen, you know, people, you respond to people, oh, it's a good idea, yeah, we'll incorporate that next time. The button mapping was, that was my major thing, because B should never be jump, you know? It's just like, B and A, you know, B is attack, A is jump. If it's not that, it's like, well, now I can't play it. You know, I gotta cross my hands backwards or something. It's like, I'm getting thrown off every time.
You cannot undo 30 plus years of muscle memory on it.
It becomes that way. So, yeah, I've always appreciated about the company.
So you guys have had some involvement in some way with Evercade over games that have appeared on Evercade as well over the years. What would you like to see in future? What's your dream?
Where do we start?
I know what you're going to say.
Yeah.
Sega.
Oh yeah, need Sega. Come on.
I would love to.
I'm sure you can just pull out your magic hat, and it's so easy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, thankfully nobody's asked me about how much of a pain licensing is, and you can probably understand it's a pain. It's a big pain for a lot of these things. But you know, the reward is worth it when we do finally get there. And
I just thought of something. I mean, you know, I would love to get a 90s shooter collection, like shmup collection. You know what I mean? Especially since you added Tate mode, the you know, where it's taller.
Thank you for saying it correctly.
And actually, I mean, I run into it a lot where I feel like there's all these cave shooters and things like that were in the 90s that are, you know, because we always get 80s collections, which are fine, but I do feel like that the market's kind of moved on, and it's time to look at the 90s a little bit more.
Like the bullet hell?
The bullet hell,
Yes.
because your machine would do that, and again, in Tate mode, I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, one of the games that we've got that comes with the new current console is In the Hunt.
Yes.
Which was
In the Hunt's
properly
great.
It's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
great game, and again, another game that is really difficult to find as a console version.
Right.
We've got the arcade version.
And it's cool to see it as a cartridge, because In the Hunt was like a PlayStation 1, or, you know, it was a CD game. So it's cool that you can do CD games as a cartridge. It kind of still blows my mind.
Actually, a PS1 collection would be pretty cool on it too, I would think, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it would look really good on
Not
a
sure they can
smaller screen too.
want that,
You know?
but yeah.
I mean, that's one of the things that we're sort of
32-bit collection.
32-bit CD collection or something.
I mean, we're expanding with that, I think, especially. I mean, you guys will know because you've seen that, and if you've seen the trailers and stuff, you know, we're about to bring Duke Nukem to the Evercade.
And like 2 cartridges.
2 cartridges, so the
Classic Duke, and then
Yeah, like the 2D one, right?
Yeah, the 2D one as well. So we've remastered Duke Nukem 1 and 2 from the ground up. It's been our chief technical officer's baby. It's his kind of thing. And we're going to have more of that in future, not just Duke, but different PlayStation era games as well. So one of the things that people said to us when we first did Evercade was, where is the arcade games? because when we originally licensed them, they were the console ports for the original things, and people went, well, you've got the word "cade" in your name. Why have you done this? And then eventually we have now brought arcade games, and we try to bring real good emulation to this. We use the most legal emulator we can in Main 2016, and everything that we do to improve that emulator goes upstream, and it's all honed in on each particular game. But I'm keen to ask what your memories of the arcade are, especially and how much you get that reaction from the Evercade. I'll give a bit of context. In the UK, we have and had arcades, but it was very seasonal. It was very going on holiday to the seaside, and it would be there. It wasn't as ubiquitous as it is here.
Right.
I mean, because one of the things that I know you've done is you've put the Evercade VS home console as an arcade, pretty much in your room.
Yeah.
So yeah, what's your kind of feeling with the arcade stuff that we do, and how you take that in through Evercade?
Yeah, it's interesting. Again, so I have a stand-up MAME arcade cab. So my buddy Paul here, we got a centipede machine, we gutted it. This is a long time ago, and then we put a PC in there. But to the point is, again, 10,000 games on it. It's cool, but I also wanted something where when I had a party that people could literally just walk up to the bar, grab a controller and just play. And there was a manageable amount of things on the screen. So that's what I do use that for. So when we have people over, I usually hook up a bunch of like some of the minis, like the NES mini and stuff like that on television. So again, people can walk up and play them. But I mean, for me, again, I was an 80s kid, and so you're absolutely right. Like after school, we would go to Bears Arcade in Oak Harbor, Washington, and in the back there was a slot machine, like racing back there, and there was, arcades, and it smelled like cigarettes and, weird farts or something. I don't know, it was bizarre, but it was great. Because it was after school. No parents were nowhere to be seen. You'd have a Slurpee, and it was awesome. And so it was a lot of early arcade stuff. Frogger, Spy Hunter. Do you guys remember that really weird Clint Eastwood Laserdisc game?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Firefox.
Yeah, weird stuff like that.
That one's new to me.
Yeah, it was based on the movie. It was
Great
bad.
movie. Great movie.
No, it's a bad movie.
I like
No, it's a bad movie.
I like the movie.
But it was a really cool arcade. But it was a lot of that sort of stuff. It was very creative, and they would swap it out every 3 months.
Yeah.
And I loved it, man. It's like when I go up to my old hometown, it's like I drive by that place, and it's a Marshalls or something. It breaks my heart. But it was great memories.
So for me, arcades is many things. It's many different experiences. Everything from like the 7-Eleven, they had the Street Fighter 2, that you had the kid always kick the crap out of you playing it, or the Gold Mine in the Mount Shasta Mall. And so that would have like featured, to have the new games featured in the front. Everybody have a crowd around. Then if you didn't have a lot of money, you'd go in the back and oh yeah, this arcade game's still $1. Like, be excited, playing Miss Pac-Man or something.
Right.
And then the new one like Gauntlet Legends, and that was like brand new, and they'd feature it, or you'd have a mix of a little bit like at a round table pizza, and you would have like just a string of 4 or 5 arcade machines. One was typically broken, the other one had like a messed up arcade stick, so like 3 out of the 5 you could play, and you're like just hoping that they didn't suck.
We went to a place last week, remember in New York, that
in Rochester.
and all the machines were terrible.
Right.
It was so funny because we're
The
spoiled
tapper control's a little
sometimes.
loose, and
Remember, like we were trying
yeah.
to play Sprint or something like that.
Oh,
You're right.
yeah.
It was terrible, but it was also kind of cool,
Just drives home that nostalgia factor. They want to have that that 80s experience
That's
with
right.
the pizza grease on the buttons, and one of the buttons sticks and doesn't undo it, so you can't jump anymore.
Yeah.
And that was my arcade experience. We had a couple of arcades in my town, Yakima, Washington, but a lot of my arcade experience was, like you said, the gas stations. This was back when Safeway would have a couple of machines just right inside the lobby. So I'd kind of just keep an ongoing inventory of anything within walking distance. Okay, Zybots is over here, but they just got Spy Hunter over here, or something like that. Keeping track of all those. But every quarter I found like you would, I mean, it's funny because now that we're in the 2020s now, you'll find quarters in like the leave a penny, take a penny thing at gas stations. That wouldn't have existed in our day because every quarter was 3 lives to something. So every time I'd find a quarter in our couch cushions, I'd go straight to one of them and play a game. So every time I play any arcade something or other, like on Evercade, the first thing I do is I hit that insert coin button about 1,000 times because it's like, oh, like 20, you have to keep racking it up because I can. It's unlimited quarters and I love it. So I feel rich for a second.
And I would say the other thing too, for a long time, the arcade was the definitive version of a game, right?
Yeah.
So like I remember.
Oh, sure.
I remember vividly really enjoying Kangaroo in the arcades. And getting the Atari 2600 version, I was just like, oh man, I spent all my money on this, Mom. Can I take it back? You know, but that was the thing for a long time. Is that they were absolutely, and every time you'd go, it was just the colors were sharper, the sound was better. It was just a great experience.
I had that experience with Outrun, which is one of my favourite games, and one of the reasons I'd love to bring Outrun to Evercade if I could. I played that arcade game to death. I love it. I still love it. But the only version I had of it was until I got a later console, was a ZX Spectrum version of it.
I'm sorry.
And
I'm sorry.
The crashing realization.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, the only thing that actually did pass well that I played in the arcade that passed well to Spectrum was Star Wars, the wireframe Atari Star Wars. That used to work really, really well.
You know, the other arcade machine, I remember this vividly, is Hang On, but it actually was a motorcycle and you would tilt it.
Yeah, you had the.
Can you guys build that?
We could try. I mean,
It'll be like this big, like, you know.
Yeah, I mean, going back to part of what I said on our thing, where do you see the evolution of Evercade going next? I mean, as contests, as some of you may know, we're splitting and creating a new brand as well called Hyper Megatech, so we can do more value-based things. These new Super Pockets I have in front of me, which have built-in arcade games, they take Evercade carts. They're very back to basics when it comes to these things, and they're only going to be $60. But where do you see sort of Evercade going now? Because we've been coming up to 4 years. I mean, we kind of know what we're going to do next, but you know, we've done a better handheld compared to the original one. We've bought the VS for the home console one.
Love that. That's my favorite.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's not just saying that as a YouTuber.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite console because like you put 2 carts in, you get like an extra game. Like you have this you get this bonus game if you like crack the code of like the right 2 carts. Like I don't know. Like, to me, that's my jam.
I did have a lot of fun in our recent indie showcase. I threw in a reference to the British TV show Nightmare by doing a riddle that people had to solve. And it was literally a riddle that I lifted from Nightmare. There was zero originality to that. But again, that once people solved that and put that into the secret keyboard that we got on it, it unlocked a bonus C64 game, which was really, really cool. But yeah, no, that's really good.
And that price point to me, like that $100, like to me, that's like the sweet spot. It's $100. It's a console you can play with a buddy. Like going back to that nostalgia, like I can play with a friend. I can fully enjoy this game because it's multiplayer, and also like having that 2 cart slot and being able to. I mean, that was a really neat feature.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And it just it was like it checked all my boxes for why I like Evercade. And so that's still my favorite, the Versus. So like for me moving forward, it would be nice to see like a beefier version that could do more things, like emulate other things that maybe the Evercade right now can't.
Would you like to see it go newer, like towards more of the early noughties, 64-bit kind of era and stuff?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
That'd be fun.
It'd be interesting to get some feedback from the audience too.
Yeah, definitely.
Like what they think. as
I was
well.
going to say, I have no idea if we have like a roving mic for questions or anything else like that, but we've got some time for some questions, so if anybody has any, please let me know. We got a couple there. Gentleman in the hood there, is it a hood or a hat? Yeah.
So is there any chance y'all would use specifically like console exclusive like cards such as like the Neo Geo Pocket, a Sega 32X collection, a CD collection, or any other obscure like Lynx collection, for example?
Yeah, interesting. I mean, we'd definitely look to that if it was possible to get those kind of things. I mean, at the moment, the Duke Nukem stuff that we're doing is exclusive to Evercade. And of course, previously we have done the Link stuff, which I think us and now Digital Eclipse have really helped Links go back into people's minds. You know, I mean, you guys did great videos of the collector's guide and the owner's guide and what you should have with it. But it's been one of those kind of forgotten systems, and there's loads of forgotten systems that we'd love to, you know, things that, you know, would work really, really well with the Tate mode, like the Wonder Swan stuff and things like that. Yeah, if there's ways that we can license it, we absolutely would. Absolutely would. Yeah, gentleman at the front.
So since Konami owns what is left of Hudson Soft, any chance we could get some PC Engine TurboGrafx?
Potentially, yes. There's
my dream
actually,
too.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
there's actually very little stopping us from doing the system in itself. It is just more how much of those games are within somebody's own license and things like that. So we're always there. I mean, one of the things that
Alien Crush, please.
Oh, yeah.
The Devil's Crush.
Devil's Crush. Well, that's one of the things I also, the two genres I want to bring more to Evercade is pinball and strategy. Because it's one of those things that there's quite an interesting selection of strategy games from that 8 to 16-bit era that you get, especially here. Like, we didn't get half of the Koei Tecmo strategy games that came out in the US. So we're always looking at things where we can go, right, well, what brings something new to our market? Like we did with Renovation. The Renovation games never came out in Europe. So that was the first time that until they've recently done the re-releases, the first time they were released anywhere in Europe for things like, apart from one, which was Sol Dees, which was the Legacy D one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, no, Soul Feast was the main
Soul
CD.
Feast and Soul Dees. Yeah, it's
Soul Dees,
confusing.
Yeah. But yeah, hopefully so. Gentleman in the back first. Yeah, with the hat.
Like you're looking for suggestions?
Yeah.
How about a 4x3 screen, but much larger?
That's quite interesting because the new Super Pockets are quite close to that, which we'll have here. But it's one of those things that.
Oh, sorry.
I mean, you get them next week. It's fine. It's one of those things that it's a weird balance with that because we would like to do 4x3. And one of the reasons we kept the screen that we have now with the EXP was because everybody liked that and it worked with some of the more widescreen games like Lynx. But we're always looking to see what kind of screen we'll do. You know, there's lots of different form factors in, you know, arcades and different things that would suit that. So it's not impossible that would happen. Obviously, the one thing that we're very keen to not do is do too much, you know, as well.
I have a question. How powerful is the Evercade? So, for instance, how new of a generation can you go? Can it play PS2 games, or is it PS1, or what?
It can play up to Dreamcast and N64. One of the reasons that we haven't done those that much, Dreamcast is size, because of the game sizes and things like that. Because our cartridges only have a certain amount of data, we have to work on compression and things like that. With the N64 stuff, as well as finding stuff that you can license that isn't from Nintendo, translating it to the D-pad and face buttons, it's something we're very keen on, and we always strive to do is find a way to make that controller work. You know, we've done C64 stuff and television stuff, and we got to the limit of what we could do out of those catalogs with that control scheme, because that's always the really, really tricky thing with those.
And does emulation, I read somewhere emulation happens on the cartridge, is that true?
Yes.
Okay, so the
software and everything that's in there is within the cartridge, and then the console itself will power it and as an
interesting.
executable, yeah. There was another question at the front. Reggie, did you have a question?
Reggie.
Yeah. Are you guys gonna focus on any just exclusive games for the Evercade itself?
Other than Duke Nukem and licensed stuff, it's possible.
Right.
One of the things that we're very, very keen on is building a relationship with the indie developers that we've worked with. I'm going to single out Alistair Lowe of Low Tech Games, who did Flea and Tapeworm Disco Puzzle.
Love Flea.
Oh yeah,
They're fun.
Yeah.
We really want to, at some point, start publishing our own games. We're already publishing quite a lot of those games, but we want to do things where we can bring something to the table, we can develop stuff, or at least give ideas to people, Doing it with somebody else's license is normally easier. So the Duke Nukem collections is, we found the void where we could do the work and it suited what is going on. But yeah, in future we'd love to. Absolutely would love to. There was a gentleman in the back standing.
Yeah, so for the Evercade Versus, I really like the controller. It's kind of a bit of chunky, goodness. Although I will say that third-party compatibility is very important to me. My favorite is the 8-bit SU30. I'm just curious if the panel has any favorite controllers that they use with the Versus.
Oh, that's an interesting one, because I know one of the favorites for the VS in general is the 8-bit arcade stick that a lot of people use.
Yeah.
I mean, do you guys use any other controllers with it?
So, my honest answer is I'm lazy. So, I know it's compatible with other things, but those other controllers of the 8-bit though are paired with other things.
Yeah.
Like I have a NES Mini that I use I got from you long ago, the NES 30. And it's one of my favorite of that. So I play with that, but honestly I use a stock controller and I'm okay with that. I'm not using long play sessions. I'm gravitated to like that 20-minute session. So if, in a dream world when I have more time to like leisurely play where I'm not recording or, showing something.
Yeah, we don't have that.
Yeah, what's that? I would use an 8-bit DOE more, but I use a stock controller to be honest.
Yeah,
Just the default.
Yeah, I do as well. Although I really do like 8-bit DOE's controllers. They're fantastic. And so I will use it on my PC actually use their 8-bit DOE controller. And then Hori on other systems as well. So I really like Hori controller, especially for the N64.
Good question.
One of the things we also don't say enough and we don't promote enough actually is that we do also support the Microsoft Adaptive Controller.
Oh, very cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
And obviously now we've got custom game mapping, you can do a lot with that controller
that's cool.
in there as well.
That's super awesome.
There was a couple of other questions.
We got like
to
3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah, I've got a guy at the back in the black and yellow first, and then I'll go back front.
So do we ever see for the Masters Part 2 collection? I know that you said that, no more US, UK game.
Sorry, a remastered what, sorry?
Codemaster.
Codemaster collection. So Codemasters is an interesting one because Codemasters is now owned by EA. And we'd love to do more with Codemasters and more out of that catalogue, especially now we've got home computer. And we have those relationships. That's one of those things that if the deal is right for them as well as it is for us and it's the right time, and licensing when we say it can be a pain, the idea is it's not just turning up at somebody's doorstep with money. It's very much, they want to be in a position to go into their catalogue and release these games again, and we want to be in the position where we can do that and the two harmoniously come by. What I would personally like to do, and this is going to Reggie's question actually, I would love to do a new Oliver Twins collection and get the Oliver Twins involved and actually get them either to make some new games for old systems or moderate some games that they've seen in the homebrew space and bring that to it. Because the Oliver Twins obviously have got a large history with Codemasters, but they've got a greater history since. They developed one of the Burger King games. So, they're still very much active and stuff. So, yeah, hopefully so. There's a few in that Codemasters catalogue I'd like as well.
Probably one more.
Yeah, got one more question here.
Let's go down to the front because the lady's been patient. I'll come on to see you later with that.
The Evercade, how does it compare to original hardware in terms of like FPS or load time? Because you mentioned that they're all licensed games, which technically would make them available for speedrunners.
Interestingly, one of the features that we are looking at is a speedrunning mode. So yeah, we're trying to keep it as close as possible. There is obviously a tiny bit of emulation lag because there always is on these kind of things, but it is as close to the original as you can get. One of the things, or three of the things that we got on the Evercade that really helped that is we have competition mode, which you can start the game in that kills your save states. You can't load it, so it's literally perfect for that. One shot, speed running it. We also have a coin limit function as well. So you can, for the arcade games, you can put only a certain amount of coins as a limit, and it gives you, I can do this in 2cc or whatever, and try and go through that. Obviously, one of the things that we've been asked for quite a lot that will help sort of speed running and everybody getting there is things like leaderboards. It is something we're working on. It's making sure that we do it right. But we would love to do more speed runs on things. I mean, my speed run record at the moment on Adventure for Atari is, I think, 40-something seconds for that first level. It's easy when you know how, though, isn't it? But yeah, no, I'd love to bring more speedrun, and I'd love speedrunners to do more with the Evercade. I think one of the games we released last year, Morphcat Games, has a game that actually has a speedrunning record of like 20 minutes, which is Space Goals, I think. And that's
Alex
been
Gamer's second adventure is speedrun.
Yeah.
That's a popular indie title to speedrun.
So
Tough game.
It's definitely something that we thought about when we're doing that, and it's just how we can bring it. So maybe we should get the communities going and say, hey, speedrun challenge this weekend. Who's doing it? I mean, actually, if you're part of the Evercade Discord, we do actually have a thing called Cadie's Challenge, which one of our writers helps us with. And basically, every week, random game out of the entire collection, and you get a platinum, gold, silver, bronze as to what your score is, what the time is, or anything else like that. So we try and keep it within the community for that. But yeah, hopefully, much more speedrunning in future and speedrunning games. And yeah, you can do that with the Evercade. Nice. Cool. Well, thank you very much for everybody's time today and coming. Thank you very much to the panel.
Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and to the right are a few more videos from the Portland Retro Gaming Expo 2023. Thanks for watching.